Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Astrology and Beyond. I am Tatiana, also broadcasting for ANN Archetypal News Network, and today is the last day of 2024. Happy New Year to everybody! Oh my God, we made it to 2024. What a year! And 2025 is like, OMG, it's going to be life transforming in all ways, shapes, or forms. And today we're going to speak about the first 15 days of January. I will be posting a video about the main themes of 2025 soon. So you have your calendar ready and can check off important things and phases. However, today we're just going to talk about what the new year is bringing. And because it's the time for our so-called New Year resolutions, even though the actual New Year is not quite really in reality in January. It's okay. This is also a great time where the collective can begin to align with their highest purpose. And I wish for all of you to align really deeply with your inner self. So, with that being said, let's look at the chart with no further ado and see what is going on here. Um, Okay, so there's going to be really important things happening for sure this coming first week of January. It starts with a bang, bang, boom. And let's see, what are we starting to have at first? So, we have um so we have the sun in Capricorn, and it is sextiling Saturn and in a square to the Jupiter, and Jupiter in a square to Saturn. So we have the Sun, sextile Saturn, Jupiter square to Saturn, and we also have the Sun squaring Lilith and Mars opposing Pluto. So these are like the main themes that we're gonna have, like bing bada boom. These are the actors playing at this time. Uh, and essentially, there is a comeback of our um, capacity to either ground things in reality or be completely out of it. So there is a dynamic push and pull, especially with the with the Saturn square Jupiter that we've seen come back again and again, that is wanting us to expand into new horizons with new ways of thinking, new opportunities. Maybe there's a lot of information coming our way, and we need to absolutely learn how to harness our discipline, harness our capacity for discernment, especially in this new age of AI, where everything and anything is possible, and where everything that opens up is indeed possible. And we can get very confused. This is a time to be really discerning of things in our environment. And also, as we're wanting to move into new forms of expansion and open up our minds to new possibilities, it is really important that we're grounded in our core center and our stability. And what is our core center and stability? It's not the outside, it's not the material things, it is indeed the internal realm of self. And this is why it's so important to have visions and have possibilities and opportunity, but also with the capacity to ground things in reality. Now there is enormous dynamic tension also between um, Pluto and Mars, and I did a video specifically about Pluto and Mars. Please check that video because I go really in depth into what this archetype means, where it comes from, and all the repressed, maybe anger, aggression, and forceful desire that has not been really fully expressed, and that in our world might show up as conflict, war, and really, things that we might see in our world play out, escalating conflict. And again, this leads to acts of brutality or all kinds of things that we might see in our world. And as I said before, our world is nothing other than a reflection of our inner being, and we are all players into the shift of what we see in our world. It's not somebody out there is going to fix it. I can fix this within myself. I am contributing to the world. So in this sense, there can be conflicts of interest in general. There might be a desire for people to expand in their own directions and at the same time find difficulties in this expansion. So this is really a time to harness inner strength, adapt, and refine your goals amid the challenges. Why? Because in using Saturn's energy to be able to ground in reality with the expansiveness of possibilities that Jupiter gives us in Gemini, moreover, where there's so much information and so much that we can draw from and opportunities to learn also new things. This is a time where focusing is going to be really important and really, really, really refining the goals. But these goals must be aligned with your soul and with your soul's purpose and essence. And this is what we will see mostly the first 15 days of January, that we will see a lot of water coming in. For now, we still have Venus in Aquarius, and there's Pluto, of course, entering Aquarius. So there is a lot of air energy, uh, and when the water comes in again, we might feel a shift where everything that's coming at us is not really out there, but is the perception or the feeling of things that we need to intuitively move towards instead of using too much of the logic and the mind. However, it is important to use a little bit of your logic and your mind to structure a little bit your life. But this 15 days are not the 15 days to try and force life and see what comes out of your limited perception. This is a time to really get yourself like move into a much more trusting place, as Venus is at its anaretic degree and moving into Pisces as well. We might find finally Venus coming into a very comfortable place for her, because Venus is comfortable in Pisces. There's a time for dreaming, for beauty, for art that is fantastic these coming weeks. So take stock of that. Now, what happens as we move forward? As I said, for Mars and Pluto, please watch that video, because there could be a lots of conflicts and challenges. And if we're able to move through those conflicts and challenges with uh, with compassion and grace, we might actually harness a lot of that energy into the future that we want to create. Instead of destroying things, we might just get that energy that is raw, pure raw energy. And Mars is retrograding, right? Now, Mars is retrograding now in Cancer again, and this is where a lot of the water starts coming in. And Mars is going to be trining Neptune, and it's going to be still opposing Pluto for the time being. And as we see, Venus enters Pisces. So now we have Neptune, Saturn, and Venus in Pisces. We have uh, Mars in Cancer. And a lot of this energy, like I said, is about the intuitive feel and what is our will aligned with. When we have something in water, and especially Mars and Neptune, is what are the causes worth fighting for, right? And um, ideally, when we are in alignment with what we truly believe is a calling that is more about the humanity, it's about compassion and caring, we might be really harnessing all of our energy into goals that are not necessarily selfish per se, but that they are serving the higher collective. Now, How do we serve the higher collective when we, for example, not serve ourselves? And I don't say in a selfish way, but for example, in a self-caring and loving way, if we haven't reached the levels of acceptance of who we are, who we truly are, and the love we can have for ourselves, it's very difficult to give love to others and to serve higher goals. So this is why this whole time of Mars moving into Leo, retrograding, etc., is to see where is our will directed and how can our will that is connected to a higher source of energy be directed. For example, when we trust that there is a higher calling, when we use our intuition and the gifts of the sensing, the waters of our being, what are the waters? Is the emotional body. It's the feeling, is the sensing, is the caring, is the yin, is the feminine. And for this, forcing and pushing, it's not, it can't make it happen when we're trying to dominate things and push them through, this is not going to cut it. Sometimes the best way forward is when the stillness sets in. So I felt called to actually read a small passage from the Jinkies. And this is from Jinky 34, whose um, shadow side is force. And the gift of the 34 is strength, and the CD is majesty. And I personally carry this archetype within me, so I felt that as Mars and Pluto are in this forceful aspect, because this is what Mars and Pluto teach us also as an archetype, is the archetype of brute force, and how when we relinquish the forcing and the trying to make things happen and the domination of others, and we enter in a state of complete surrender, then the forcing stops. And these 15 days are going to show us, are you going to keep forcing life and trying to make things happen and push and get more into conflict, or can we surrender to something much bigger, much grander than our little selves? So with this being said, I wanted to read a passage of the Citic state of this 34th Jinki that says, when life is not interfered with in any way, it becomes highly fluid and efficient. The more you try to force life to flow where you would like it to go, as opposed to where it wants to go, the less efficient you become and the more energy you use. The most commonly used analogy to this aspect of the 34th city is the comparison of the life force to water. To echo the words of the great sage Lao Tzu, the very softest thing of all can ride like a galloping horse through the hardest of things, like water penetrating rock, and so the invisible enters in. This is why I know it is wise to act by doing nothing, and how very few understand this. I really love this piece of wisdom because this is precisely what our world is going to have to face as shadows with the Mars opposition Pluto. The more we enter into war and conflict, the less we can ever flow and trust a divine flow. And these 15 days, with all the water that's coming in and with the nodes shifting, it's going to give us precisely this lesson to look at. And the challenge here is, do we align with that, with total surrender? Or are we going to keep forcing and entering conflicts and challenges? And at the same time, because we have the square to Jupiter, is can we trust that there's something bigger, brighter, better that is not coming from our logical minds? However, that opportunities may come up as we see possibilities around us. So it's also about scoping many possibilities and not allowing the amount of information of possibilities to overwhelm us, but to choose wisely. And this is why Saturn is the wise is the wisdom incarnate, literally. Helps us structure something in a way that is wise, that we can ground the ungroundable. And we need to be very flexible because Saturn, naturally, obviously moving through Pisces is not necessarily very, it's very opposed to that energy because the energy of water. However, the energy of water and the rocks, right? Is you can have a riverbank and the water can flow through a riverbank and it can be free and flowing with a structure. The river is not necessarily uh, stiff. A river just flows and it flows over rocks, over objects, over obstacles, but it keeps flowing. And the issue sometimes, and we might see this, is when there's too much water, the river might overflow and flood everything. Now, floods, what is the meaning of the flood? And this is because a lot of the energy of Pisces and Mars in entering in Cancer, and again, the overflowing of emotional energy, the overflowing of water, sometimes what it does is cleansing. It cleanses, it removes. So we might see that from one perspective, that destruction that comes from flooding, it's like a devastation. However, for the earth, it's almost like a regeneration. It's the same with fires. When we see fires or forest fires, the nature is very wise in its regeneration processes. And these times of floodings might be forcing us, in a certain sense, to regenerate and to trust that even when we're taken with on by the waters, there is always an endpoint that will be regenerated or regenerative. Now, with this being said, I'm not saying that for people that are experiencing, for example, difficulties with floodings, that this is like, oh, it's great. It's just more to see that there are higher perspectives about this, and that whenever there are things that end, and with Pisces, there's a lot of endings. When things are culminating and ending, the end of an era, the end of a way of being, the end of relationships, of patterns, so that something new can be birthed, is almost like this wiping out with a clean slate. And sometimes the waters help us to do that. Now, what can you do? Sometimes grieving. The water is also very connected to grieving processes. Grieving is okay. What does grieving mean? It means a path towards the detachment that is necessary for something new to emerge. And the waters that flow from our tears are part of this process. So sometimes you might need to grieve something that you're letting go of. But in grieving that and allowing your own tears to flow, then possibly you might not see or experience floodings, for example, but your own emotions might be wanting to overflow. Now, is that good or bad? It's neither. It's not good or bad. You might just feel overly emotional. And at a at a humanity level, you might even feel so connected to the crisis that humanity is going through, that people are feeling. It's almost like this energy is trying to connect us to a much higher sense of unity with others. This is why this energy wants us to see the other as myself and see myself as the other. So we can have much more compassion, and then our actions are not led by greed or by selfishness, but our actions are connected to something bigger that is aligned with ourselves, but that serves a much higher purpose that we have no idea what it is. And for that, we need to allow the compassion that lives in our hearts to flow and emerge. So if we see somebody that is in crisis and we can hold space for them, we might feel that our hearts suddenly connect and we can see them better. So these are times, are opportunities to see everybody in the same light as ourselves. So if we're having crisis, if we're having difficulties, if we're having to letting go of things and cry, there might be others also holding space for us. And this is a time where we all can also grieve together. Now, grieving, like I said, it's not necessarily something that needs to be depressing or sad, which is kind of a shadow of the Piscean archetype, is the victimhood, is being the victims of circumstances. And we're not victims of anything. We can just see that all that we create, it's shared. And that is the purpose of this energy of the ocean. It's like you are the drop in the ocean and you are the ocean as well. So everything, every thought you have impacts everybody. So every time we can have some compassionate action towards anybody, this is helping the collective consciousness. Now let's see a little bit more. Where are we here? Of what is going on. So January 6th, expect these things. And we also have is this square? We have Mercury. Okay, whoa, this is really important too. Mercury will be also squaring Neptune. So I want to talk about this aspect a little bit, because with this aspect, this is where we can get way too lost or overwhelmed. So there can be confusion or miscommunication, idealism that clashes with illusion or foggy thinking, a tendency to exaggerate or believe in unrealistic ideas without proper grounding, and then the potential for inspiration in creative or spiritual pursuits. But there is a caution to have, is that we need to discern truth from fantasy. So because there is not only a lot of this energy of water coming in, there is this maybe confusion in the air. This is a time, and I put this image here because it's like when your head is completely in the clouds, you cannot see, and someone's trying to address you or talk to you or say something, you cannot even see them for what they truly or really are. If you're too lost in your own thinking, that your perceptions might be completely skewed. So this is when it's very important not to make decisions that are life altering or life changing. This, if I had to say something, is a time where it's best to not take much action, especially Mars retrograding. This is not about making the next plans and launching the projects. It's really about reassessing uh, how we have directed our energy, and if our energy will be then directed more towards something that serves a higher purpose, that will give us more fulfillment. And that really requires that trust process. Now, in that trust process, beware that you do not lose your mind. So anything that can probably not like take you out of reality, like any escapism, things like alcohol, psychedelics, drugs, any of that. At this time, I would not advise to go into any of that, but really stay very present with your body. Now, when it comes to communication, if you see something that seems too good to be true, or somebody's trying to, give you the magic potion for things, this is not the time to go with things or make contracts and agreements and things that are like set in stone if you're not thinking clear. So, for instance, if you have, for example, to review a contract of sorts, make sure to do it. This is almost like a Mercury retrograde kind of energy where the mind might not really be clear at all. And because the veil is very thin, this is where we can get trapped in imaginary things or follow false gurus or false informations. And beware of information and misinformation, fake news. Beware of that, because in a time where we might be very um prone to deception, well, this is most likely what would happen. Imagine there is some kind of news about whatever, and it could be related to, I don't know, government things, war, this or that. It doesn't matter. But the news might put you in a state where you believe something and it's not even true. It's fantasy. So fantasy is not only something that comes from our own psyche, it comes from where what we believe to be true. So before just believing the first thing you see, under these transits, it's really important to triple check facts. And not only with, through our computers, our news, or our media, but check facts with different people, and sometimes there could be these like collective psychosis as well, where everybody's believing, I don't know, something completely out of, of anything that is actually possible. But uh, so it's moderation. This is a time of moderation. Um, Trust and moderation, right? Um, did I stop the share? Okay. Oh, here. I don't know what I did. Anyway, so let's keep going. Um, so confusion in the thinking. So January 8th, we're having also um uh what else are we having here? We have Mercury entering Capricorn. So the same energies come into play. However, Mercury, as it moves into Capricorn, it allows us to have a little bit more of a clear mind. So while there is this square to Neptune happening, we are also having the capacity to maybe be more organized. So I'm going to give you a little tip, and this is something I just did with myself in order not to have like an overwhelming amount of ideas that will never come to fruition. I got a little planner, and I know this is interesting because this is a Virgo speaking, and the Virgos are probably going to be very, very, very affected with this energy. Well, indeed, Virgo, all the mutable signs, so Sagittarius, Geminis, Virgos, and Virgos are going to be very affected. Now, the Piscean people might actually benefit enormously from this new incoming energy because of their nature of already being so connected to other realms, to sensitivity and to deep compassion in general, right? Now, what happens with Virgo people is like we're gonna try to control and make sense of things, and sometimes there's no way of making sense of things. And this could be things that are happening in our world, like why are all those drones over there? Like who knows, right? I don't really think much about anything really, but trying to make sense of things so strenuously is not gonna be very helpful. Now what is helpful is try to get your goals concised. And for example, with this energy of Mars, it's important to evolve towards independence, and also because Mercury is squaring the nodes that are at the very, very, very end of Libra and Aries. So at this time, it's important to evolve towards independence, to embrace direct and assertive communication, personal authenticity, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because if you're still not authentically who you are, the next round of things with new energy that are gonna come are gonna you're going to affect it with being who you're not. So this is why we're still having opportunities to really sit with who am I and where do I want to put my energy in, and how can I communicate this clearly to others so that we can come to different agreements amongst our friends, families, groups, and society at large. Also important to release over accommodation, letting go of patterns of avoiding conflict or over compromising for others' sake. And this is why it's very important to face not conflict, as this is difficult, but be okay with expressing your truth with a certain assertiveness and clarity. Now, during this time, we are more prone to have more compassion for others and to open up to listening to them more as well, and listening to their needs and what they're about. And then they might also be more open to listening to our needs and we're about. Otherwise, we keep the conflict going, right? Integrate logic with passion. So use Mercury in Capricorn's practicality to support bold yet thoughtful action, bridging ambition with emotional balance. Why? Because also we are at a time where we might feel with the energy of Capricorn and Cancer that there is a deep need also for security or assurance, or being assured that your environment is a safe and secure environment. And in order to do this, and that's why Capricorns are so practical and pragmatic, it's it's the idea that we can reach certain goals once we have all the ducks in a row. So I'm going to share with you what I did with all my ideas. And I just did this now, but you can do it at any point during this next week. So I put in a little calendar all the things, goals, ideas, thoughts that I have been receiving, because when we're connected to the Piscean realm of energy and and with Neptune as well being very active, um, and Neptune and Mercury, in order not to be deceived, it's more like connect to all the ideas you might have. And sometimes these ideas are completely out there, they might be completely ridiculous. But when you write them down, this is a time where you can actually create a lot of beautiful artwork. It might not go into anything, but if you write all your ideas down, everything that's coming through you, even if it's completely out there, you put it in paper, and then you can start organizing what of these ideas are actually actualizable, doable. What of all these things that is coming through a stream of consciousness, and it could be like crazy ideas, which is okay. This is the whole point about allowing the fields of Neptune to inform what is actually possible in the limitless amounts of energy of the universe. Now, remember that limitless doesn't mean that everything is necessarily applicable right now. So this is why in this dimension we need procedures and order and process. So the way to balance the energy of the Virgo with the energy of the Pisces is receiving all the information, trusting that there are things happening and that are much larger than yourself, but also do your little due diligence of putting that down and let it sit. Why do I say let it sit? Because Mars is still retrograding, and this is not the time to go into action. A lot of these things might actually change in the next 2 months. So let things sit a little bit. Let these ideas, um, how would I call this? Let these ideas percolate. Put them down, unload them. You know, unload them. Yeah, like download them. Let it be. Take this time for relaxation, for tuning into your being, really connecting to your self-care, self-love, connecting to maybe art and music, because while Venus transits Pisces, oh, what a beautiful time to connect to music, to connect to art, to connect with others in these collective sharings. I myself have started a thing called the Music Jam Cafe, which is an idea I had, and I'm going to test it out precisely around this time, which is getting together with people to make music together. And it's just improvisational music. Someone with the drums, someone might be singing, someone might have a harp. And I've already done this before, but it's bringing these things more and more into our collective. And what comes of that is beautiful bonding experiences that are beyond the need to control anything or do anything in a particular way. That's why I suggest this as a tool. You might, for example, get together with some friends and just chant together, sing some songs, bring some drums, some little percussions, and just try it out. See what happens. You don't have to be a musician, right? I'm just suggesting these things because I already do these things. So, but these are things that are beautiful under this transit. What else could you do? Um, uh, do automatic writing, painting, try a course in something new or exciting, um, that can bring you some beautiful new experiences. For example, it can be some artistic thing that you've never tried before. And by allowing yourself to move into this more relaxing energies during this first 2 weeks of the year, you might actually find that there are things that you discover within yourself that you didn't even know you have inside. So this is why I say these 2 weeks are not the weeks to go plow forward with, again, force will not cut it. Um, Now we have January 11th, and this is where something really exciting is happening. So the true node enters Pisces. So the north node here that is at its anaretic degree in Aries finally will make it into Pisces. And then uh we will have the nodes in Pisces and this conjunction to Neptune. So we can also expect January 11th. So for anybody that is having their Saturn, their solar return around this time, their birthday, oh my God, this is a time for you of total change and renewal. And this energy might very positively impact actually the Earth signs. So it might impact the Virgos, the Capricorns, and the Tauruses, because Uranus is going to be like lightly trining, it's going to be trining the sun. So anybody that has planets or points around the 20th degree, 20 to 25th degree of the earth sign, so Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus, this might be a time for you of enormous realizations about your true nature, the expression of your being. This is going to be very beautiful for you. So take this energy, because as the nodes move into Pisces and Virgo, for the Virgos, that this might be a little bit harder, because it's almost like, how do you ground, how do you relax your minds enough, and your very structured minds enough to allow for a flow of energy that might be overwhelming, and at the same time bringing the gifts of organization, of of structure to the divine information that might be coming through. So for Virgos, that might be very, very interesting. I myself will have this, like I am a 25 degree Virgo. So this is like, oh, I'm excited to see what renewal I'm going to have, and I'll probably share with you. I have so many new ideas already. But anyway, so talking about this, is Sun is trining Uranus, while Mars is trining Neptune, and we have the node entering the north node entering in Pisces. So this image for me kind of represents that a little bit. Is like you're struck by lightning of some higher intelligence. If we allow, instead of trying to control and analyze, but allow opportunities to open up, there might be immense shifts happening for a lot of the people. And like I said, mostly the earth signs will probably benefit from this. And um, with the nodes entering in Pisces, so we might have the themes of spiritual evolution and true spiritual evolution. It's not the fantasizing of escaping reality. The way it's going to be presented this year is like all this higher mind or higher intelligence is almost kind of descending down, so we can ground it into our practical daily lives, everyday life. So these are the opportunities that are opening up. So there is a big emphasis on trust, intuition, and surrender to the flow of life. So for those of you who are very, very regimented, peeps, this is going to be very hard for you, because if you're not used to changing, and this is why some of the earth signs kind of struggle with this, because especially Taurus as well, it's just difficult to just allow for change. But in reality, when we allow these energies to move through, then the gifts of the earth signs can actually come into play by grounding this amazing new intelligence or intelligent forms and ideas, to not stay only in the idealism phase, but in the actualizing phase. What are we bringing to the planet that it's concrete and that can be doable and actualizable, and also spiritual in nature? So there is a capacity also for the creative and mystical exploration, a call to explore imagination, artistry, and spiritual practices. So during the passage of the nodes through Pisces, we're gonna probably see lots of artists, new kinds of music, new kinds of exploration in film, new ways of connecting to spirituality that we have never seen before. And like I say, I believe that I'm one of these people that I'm bringing a lot of these new things, like how to make music together, for instance. And if you have, I would like to share with you that I'm releasing an album very soon, an album of music from Harmonic Butterfly, which is the music I create. And the way I create this music is exactly like that. The way I create this music is not by composing a lyric and then making the music. It's actually by recording improvisational sounds and recording any sound in the space, allowing whatever's in the space to mingle, and then the music that gets created is beautiful. And sometimes what I do also is not just me. I invite people that want to sing and maybe that have not had their voices really heard ever, and that do not necessarily trust that they can be musical. And I say, everybody can. So I invite people into the studio, and when we sing, and their energy is imprinted into the music. And what I do then, as a very good Virgo, is I take everything and put it in a I just organized these creations that just happen to occur spontaneously. So, coming up very, very soon, Harmonic Butterfly, the album's called The Journey, and I will be posting this very soon. I think I'm going to be finishing it literally on this time, which is very on point. And I would love for you to let me know what you think about this music. I already have two albums out on Spotify, so in the link in the description below, you can see there is a link to Harmonic Butterfly, so you can find it on Spotify, Amazon, it's on iTunes, in all major platforms, and it's the type of music that I believe is gonna be also flooding more the world. Like many more people are going to want to make music in this way, which is less structured and like less perfected and more intuitive, almost like channeled. So, and a lot of people are going to probably be doing this with under these aspects, under these transits of the North Node through Pisces. Now, what else? So that was my little aparte. I wanted to share this with you because I do feel very strongly about how this music can really transform our world with the beautiful sounds that are going to come. And many artists are going to be starting doing things like that. So just hold on to your horses. We don't know what art is gonna be in the next two years or so. It might be like absolutely magical, especially also with new tools like AI as well. If used responsibly, there could be such an opening of imagination and magic with the new tools that come in our way, especially when Uranus is in the mix as well. So I'm saying this time is great for really creating fantastical opportunities for art. Uh, Other themes, compassion and oneness. So moving towards unconditional love, empathy, and connection with the collective consciousness. Whew. Let's sit with that for a minute. How beautiful this will be when our world can really start moving together. And I truly believe that amidst the immense changes that are happening in our world, this is one of the greatest revolutions of all time. It's not just the revolution of the people with Pluto in Aquarius and and all the that we're purging, but there is going to be a true spiritual revolution. And I believe that at this time it's no longer a spiritual revolution based on escaping life and going into woo-woo land, kumbaya, new agey things that don't really ground ourselves as compassionate beings. But I believe at this time that so many people are going to be connecting to themselves, to a higher intelligence, and really beginning to share with each other something very beautiful. I really sense there's something big coming in the air. Now, letting go of control. This is another one. Learning to embrace uncertainty and flow, trusting that not everything needs to be analyzed or fixed. And again, people that are very overly controlling, needing to know everything, to understand everything, Virgos again, or people that need to do things only their way or the highway, what's going to happen is that very difficult times for you guys. So my advice to you is breathe deep and let go. So on this note, I would like to share a little passage uh, about another gene key, which is the second gene key, which is it's returning to the one. How beautiful is this? And the passage I wanted to share is about one of the shadows, because it's the shadows of regimentation, which is exactly what I'm talking about. To be regimented means um, the enforcement of an external rhythm or structure over the top of life. This stems from deep anger that has never been resolved. Regimentation actually describes many of the world's great religions, which put themselves between an individual and their direct experience of the divine. Regimentation can also describe science, which attempts to organize life into some form of meaningful and logical framework. Anything that tries to control life and pin it down emerges from the reactive side of the second shadow. None of this is to say that religion and science are wrong, except when they serve to obscure the hidden harmony that lies within an individual. The true meaning and purpose of life is only to be found within one's heart, in the mystical experience of moving in perfect synchronization with all that is. OMG, this is like, that's why I wanted to read this passage, because this is exactly what we might be entering into and seeing these shadows, by the way, because whenever we enter a phase, we might see the shadows amplifying, and the shadows we have seen already with Pluto moving out of Capricorn, that anything that's attempt to control, to obscure, to it's with the energy that's coming in, it's not gonna cut it. There might be actually quite a lot of suffering when we're still so stuck to the need to control everything. And how about we surrender to life and allow. So that the more we release the grip on everything, and then the detachment that comes from this. This is also very important to begin to detach from the perceived forms and from the need to understand anything. So I know Virgos, it might be really hard for you, but I really, really say to all of the Virgos out there, use your intellect and your organizational skills to to have a loose structure in things, but do not try to understand things that are not, there's no way to understand it. Just allowing things, letting them go. This is going to be a probably very magical time. And this, depending on how, what attitude we have towards life, we can either experience something super magical or something very uh, very stressful. Now the last thing is our new full moon in Cancer that's occurring on January the 13th. So this full moon in Cancer is under the influence of all these aspects. So what would be important to note under this full moon, it's again that there is such a need to feel like safe in ourselves, and for that we need some grounding. What could be very confusing maybe during these times, and that's something I would want uh to say about the full moon, it's that so there might be uh, very good opportunities to go into the spiritual transformation that I was talking about. This is a profound time for the spiritual awakening, for you to connect to intuition. And the way to do this, to connect to your intuition, cannot be done outside of yourself. This is what we do when we just close our eyes breathe and feel into the heart. This is really important at this time. What else? It's very important to balance what the material world is and the mystical experiences. Like I said, we might be having mystical experiences. So if you're going into meditations, you might be having awakenings that you've never felt before. Um, and it's important to also release anything that is not serving us in our lives. If you really feel that there is something culminating in your life, um, with the energy of Pisces that is very, very, very present here, especially because um, Saturn is is the ruler of the sun at this moment. So um, if we are able to consciously and clearly release things and close the cycles of things that are really no longer serving us, this can be a beautiful time for for dreaming the new, for bringing exciting possibilities. And not only that, the thing is like when we have aspects like for instance here Black Moon Lilith also in the mix, and it is trining Venus. There could be, it's like bringing from the depth of our emotional essence what is being hidden. And when we're able to communicate that in art, in music, in playfulness, in something bigger, then emotional in experiences that can be very intense can be transformed into ecstatic experiences. So again, use dance, movement, music, anything that is artistic to move energy that might be stuck. Remember that Mars and Pluto are still in opposition. So anything that's still forcing you, you can use the energy at your disposal of all the creativity to move that energy through. So the intuition might be extremely amplified as well. And this is also a time where you can use poetry, words, beautiful words, song. I don't know. Like I said before, sing together with your friends, sing songs of hope. I don't know anything. Or even if you're grieving something, then grieve deeply. This is why Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio might be also pointing out to a lot of the feminine energy that has been repressed for so long to come out and ah use the voice. I feel very, very intensely that there is something about the voice when Mercury is in the mix in this trine to Venus and Lilith, is using the voice, using your capacity, not just your mental capacities, but the voice, the communication, the speech, poetry, words. This is a time for maybe revolutionary poetry. So if you're a poet, sit down, write some words and share them with the world in a blog, in a post. Like again, it can be things that are very grounded. You could have even a Facebook post where you're posting some poetry, some inspirational messages. And I think this is when we can find the connection to what the anger that is being repressed in our society and in your own being and your own self has a capacity to heal. Also because we see Chiron here in the square with the sun. This is a time where very painful things might come to the front, to the fore, as maybe the wounds of the masculine are also coming up again and again. And when I say the wounds of the masculine, I would also dare say, oh my gosh, it's so dark here. Sorry, it's the light's shifting and the light is way out there. So anyway, I'm gonna be finished very soon. So the masculine has been very wounded. It's interesting that in my own body, I'm gonna tell you my little story of the masculine. This finger, middle finger of my right side has been triggering. Look, it triggers really strongly and lately more than ever. I have uh, pulled right hamstring, and and I've been feeling, of course, the right side corresponds to the masculine energy. And in my body, when I tune into it, it's like, yes, this is really representing the forcing, How when we try to force things against the natural flow of things, life stops you. Your body can even be really speaking very loudly. The leg is almost like I have a very hard time like walking without pain, right? So I'm like, okay, if I tune in my body and realize what is my own body telling me about these aspects, is that we're still healing the masculine wounds and the lack of trust in our ability to know that we are capable of doing things and affecting the will connected to something that is much more higher, which is the feminine. The feminine brings us this container that says you don't need to go and fight any more battles. This is the whole point of all this video and the next 15 days is, do we really need to keep fighting all these battles? And do we need to keep in conflict? Is this really what we want? And this will be highlighted with Pluto Mars. Or can we trust this new energy that is coming in, that is giving us the capacity to surrender? It's like the warrior that is so tired, that has come from battle, it's exhausted, and is at its last breath saying, I'm done. I am done. And if we embrace that energy of full surrender, then the magic comes in. This is when the nymphs and the magic, beautiful beings from other worlds come and take the warrior, up into the sky, into new realms of possibility and renewal, into the waters. And then once the warrior has been renewed and all their wounds cleansed and healed, the warrior might actually say, was this battle worth? Or could I have put all this energy into creating more beauty, more connection for everybody instead of destruction? Can we use this energy for building our communities, for helping our friends, families, and our neighbors, for creating something new? This is the energy of Mars Pluto, is raw, raw energy. The question is, how are we using this energy? And these 15 days are going to give you the opportunity to dive deep into that surrender, to become that warrior that surrenders completely to the flow. So, with this being said, I love you very much. Thank you for staying. If you stayed to the end of the video, thank you so much. Please feel free to share, like, subscribe, tap the little bell, leave a comment, and please listen to Harmonic Butterfly. See what you think about it. I would love comments on that as well. If this music provokes something in you, in your being or in your essence, please let me know, because I do believe that this can also help shift the energy of the collective that is it's very challenging at this time. So I love you very much, and I am in this very dark background right now, and see you very soon. I love